What's going on, everybody? Semi-original guy here, aka Mr. Cannon from Advanced Wars by Web, returning once again for coverage of the Egg Cup Tournament. Now, if you don't know what the Egg Cup Tournament is, huge tournament hosted by the content creator Mangs on Advanced Wars by Web. I'll leave a link in the description below where you can check out his channel. Lots of very cool, hot takes on Advanced Wars, as well as many other projects, for sure. So, pretty cool, right? Anyways, so round 4 and 5 today. Woo! Exciting stuff, right? I know. So, round 4, we are playing on this map right here. Okay. So this one was interesting. It's a very mixed base, very chaotic map. And it is Luxios only, so only only Jugger or Flock were able to be picked for this, right? So, super crazy, super interesting. Now, unfortunately, this one didn't actually go on for as long as I was hoping, right? So, we'll just go through the motions here, and we'll see what happens. So, we both picked Flock, right? Now, I was thinking about who to pick for this one, and it was either Flock or Jugger, right? And I think Flock was a little bit more of the safe pick because his luck damage doesn't really go down as much as Jugger. Jugger is way more of a wild card when it comes to luck damage. But either way. So, standard infantry builds at the beginning, you know, nothing really out of the ordinary. Alrighty. So, what happened here? So we're capping properties. I go up to cap the airport, capping this city, which is pretty close to enemy territory. Now, when I was thinking about this map, I'm thinking to myself, like, you know, the most important thing that you have to do on a map like this is you and your enemy have a lone base on either side here, right? So what you really have to do is you have to overrun this base as quickly as you can using these two bases in your airport before your opponent overruns this one. So the way that I was going to go about it was I was going to build that artillery, and I was just going to slowly try to push my way up into that area, right? So my opponent goes to capture the airport as well. He also builds an artillery. Now, I was thinking to myself, well, what's the most important thing to do with this artillery? So I moved it right here. Now, the reason I move it here is because the infantry right here won't be able to hit it, and it also covers this city, right? So I thought that was a very smart move to do. Move my other infantry over, start capping more properties, build 3 more infantry. Day 5 rolls around. And then my opponent here moves his artillery down here, which leaves this base open to be capped. So, interesting play there. But he builds a tank to defend it. And then he goes into attack my infantry on the city. And receives an equal trade, which was not, like, super good. But, so I cap my properties. Move on to the mountain, slowly moving ahead. And then I move my artillery down into position to actually fire on his base. So I thought that was a really good move on my part. Because what that'll do is it'll limit his builds from this base. And the only way that he would be able to counter would be to either bring this tank up here or build a battlecopter. But I have already built a battlecopter, so if he builds one, I can just send my battlecopter over to do some damage over there. But unfortunately, the game is over already. Now you might ask yourself, you know, why did the game end like that? Well, it's because he ran out of time. Simple thing right there, folks. Simple thing. Now, these matches, they're not quite the same as League, right? In League, you get like 7 like 10 initial days, and then your time value goes up by like quite a bit. Like you got lots and lots of time. Lots and lots of time. And these ones, you don't have as much time. You only have like 3 days or so. So, gotta watch out for it, folks. Gotta watch out for that timer. It'll get you. Now, round 5. Now, this one. I'm just gonna say it right now. Didn't go too well for me, folks. Didn't go too well. Kind of choked, if I'm gonna be completely honest. Definitely kind of choked. And, you know, it's really sad. Really sad. I was hoping to go a little bit farther, but unfortunately, you know, things just don't go that way sometimes. So, let's sort of dissect what happened here, right? And then we're gonna just see what happens, you know? Alright, so we're just gonna play it out. So, I build my infantry, opponent builds his infantry. You know, standard plays right here. We're just going in to capture our bases, capture our properties. Like, he's moving up to cap his properties, like, you know, just infantry builds. Like, nothing really out of the ordinary. Now, so, yeah, there's not really anything, like, to note right now. So, day 4 rolls around. Now, you're seeing that I'm sitting at, like, 6,000, right? So, what I could have probably have done was actually, I could have built a recon on this turn from the north base and started to send it down to pressure his comm tower. Because I think it would have actually made it in time, right? But it didn't, unfortunately. So that's too bad. Alright, so we can see he's actually skipped this base right here. Right? And he's going right for his comm tower. Which I think is the smart play. Because you don't want to lose your comm tower in this one. I mean, mind you, you don't necessarily super need your comm tower to win, but it's important to have. But because he managed to skip that, he's moved himself like far, far ahead. Alright, and he builds a recon in the south, which is going to go and do pressure to my comm tower. And like, I am unfortunately just a step behind him here, which is going to play a big role in how this match turns out. Unfortunately. So I go double tank up north because I'm planning on sending a bunch of tanks to that side and attacking, right? Now, interesting thing to note is pretty much every single time I play Stalingrad from the up position, like the north position, I lose. Weirdly enough. Now, I don't really know why that is, but I think it's just when I look at the map, I can't quite see it the same way as if I'm on the bottom, if that makes sense. I don't know if anybody else gets that, but sometimes you look at a map and you look at it from like the reverse angle and you're just like, whoa, what the hell is going on here? You know, I think that was partially what happened with me. Anyways, so yeah, let's see what happens here. So he sends his recon up. And then he scouts the comm tower, which is super smart. Because now he sees that I am not capping my comm tower, and he's capping his comm tower. So, fearing that he's got something, you know, I go to cap my comm tower instead of finishing the cap on that property. Which I don't think was necessarily like a super bad move. But I also have nothing really to reinforce that side. Now, I'm expecting him to be somewhere around where I am, right? But he's a smart guy, you know, and he goes for a complete different strategy than I do. So let's see what happens here. So this is like the beginning of the spiral, folks. Beginning of the spiral, unfortunately. Yeah, so he goes in, takes a shot there, takes another shot. So let's just speed this one up a little bit here, okay? So I've officially lost my comm tower, and I'm like, huh, well, that's not good. It's not good at all. Now, I could have actually attacked, but I thought maybe he would have had something there, but he didn't, so I didn't attack. So that was also a mistake. Probably should have just went in for the hit. could have slowed his captures down over there a little bit. And hopefully it would have been okay. Alright, so I don't have any vision down here. I do know that something just took a shot. Right, but I didn't think it was going to be like a lot. I thought it was going to be that tank and that recon, but it turns out he's got 2 tanks. And that was unfortunate. So I go in to try to cap his comm tower with my infantry, which is a terrible move. Like, you shouldn't even bother trying to do that. Just cap the properties in the back line, because pushing up like that, it's not going to work for you. Not going to work at all. And it's a rookie mistake. Alright, so I lost my tank down in the south there. And he's already reinforced with a anti-air unit too, which is super good. Now, early anti-air unit like that will prevent any air units from getting down and doing a lot of damage. Like, if he just ended up building tanks here, the battlecopter that I built there would have been able to come down and thoroughly reinforce the area. And it would have been great. Would have been great, folks. But he's got that unit. So I build triple tank this turn. I'm hoping to get them all down south. And he's got sights on 2 of my tanks, which is super sad. Alright, and then he moves both of these tanks right here, which is super smart, because now, if I go to attack this infantry, right, he'll be able to counter. Now, I saw the amount of units that are over here, and I was thinking, like, okay, he's got to be, like, full send over there, right? So I didn't expect him necessarily to have, like, a lot to counter me over there. So I try to take the shot, but as you can see, now those tanks are exposed. And all he's got to do is just send 1 tank up to scout. And then the other tank comes up and takes a shot. And now I've lost 2 tanks. Well, 3 tanks, 4 tanks. I don't know. A lot of tanks, folks. A lot of tanks. It's not good. Not looking good at all. So I'm trying to think to myself, like, okay, this sucks. This is not going good. Not going good at all. But I try not to let it deter me too much, right? So take out one of his tanks, move in a couple more of my tanks to reinforce. And then I'm just trying to hold the line. Like, you know, I'm not like super behind on the KD at this point, but like I'm fairly behind on the KD. It's like not looking super good. But he's also got a medium tank now, and I don't have a medium tank, so that's like really bad. Really bad stuff. And like, yeah, you can just see the carnage that just happened up north here. Like, this line just moved in, took out everything that I had. Now he's starting to cap a bunch of properties. And I'm like, well, shoot, that's not good. So I activate Black Storm, right? Black Storm is great. Great super co-power. One of the best in the game, in my opinion. But when you're faced with something like this, it's not really going to do too much for you. Now, you can see that my value is like super, super low, right? And he's just got like tanks everywhere. Tanks everywhere, folks. So what do you do in a situation like this? Well, not much you can do in a situation like this. But a few days prior, what you really should do is, if you're pushing over here with a bunch of tanks, and you got 3 fresh tanks and they seem perfectly fine, assume that your enemy has units in this area, right? So what you want to do with those tanks is you want to pull them back and either sit them over here, or you send them over here. But you have to do it through the back lines. You can't just cut across the middle, because the middle is suicide, obviously, right? As we can see, it was suicide. Alright, so I build a medium tank, an artillery, and a infantry. But even with all these injured tanks right now, so Von Bolt gets 110% attack, 110% defense. With the comm tower, he's now sitting at 120% attack and 110% defense. Hawk, he only gets 110% attack and no defense bonus. So there's not really too much you can do against something like that. Like, he's just got too much power. Too much power, man. Too much power, folks. Okay, so yeah, he just clumps all his units in the middle there. Now, Black Storm definitely slowed him down, but he's just got like a huge, huge advantage, folks. Pardon me. Preventing myself from sneezing, if you're wondering. Okay. So I try to cap my comm tower. I try. But yeah, no. Doesn't work. Does not work, folks. Regrettably. Yeah, it just goes in and takes the shot. Boom. Ow. Pain. Okay. So it's day 16. I'm sitting at 20 units and 105,000 value. Now I'm thinking to myself, well, he's about to get his super. Which kind of sucks. I was hoping he was going to get his super last turn and then pop it. But Von Bolt's power works a little bit differently than, let's say, Sturm's, right? So Sturm, his co-power has to be fixated on a unit directly, right? Where Von Bolt's can be spread. So, what does that mean? It means you have to spread your units out a little bit more if you're going to be baiting that Ex Machina out. Alrighty. So, I don't attack because I know it's suicide. Obviously, it's suicide, right? But he goes up and attacks my units anyways. It's just kind of unfortunate. Should have pulled them back a little bit more. So my opponent's playing super well. Okay, he's like full send all the way up to the north. And he does a bunch of damage first. Right? And then he pops his Ex Machina. Which is actually genius level stuff. Now, why is that genius level stuff? Well, if you go and do a whole bunch of damage to units around the map and then pop your Ex Machina, well, what that can do is it can actually change the trajectory or area where the Ex Machina is going to hit. For instance, if it was going to hit that big bulk of units that you just destroyed, you just destroyed those units, so now that's not the most valuable section. Now another section is the most valuable section. And that's the way it goes. Now, mind you, the Ex Machina was going to hit here anyways. But, is what it is, you know? So, yeah, I'm not feeling too good at this moment. So I build myself my Neo Tank. You know, Neo Tank spam yourself to victory, right, folks? Now, I'm trying to think. It's like, okay, he's got a whole slew of awesome units around, and I got not too much going on for me. Excuse me. Okay. Yeah, and at this point, he's just sitting at 37 units, and I'm sitting at 14. I looked at, like, the KD on this turn, and it was, like, 20 to 40 or something, and I was just like, oh, man. Sammy, you're choking. You're choking, Sammy. But, nah, what can you do, right? So I do a bunch of battle damage, and then I pop my Black Storm again. And I do a bunch of damage to his units. So even though he's sitting like way higher in unit unit numbers, his value is not really too much higher than mine. Now, however, when you're ahead by this much units, there's not really too much that you can do to come back from it. And now one of the big issues here is he's actually going down and capping a bunch of my properties. Now, if this was a normal league game, there'd be no time limit on it. You know, you'd have infinite time to be able to sort of come back for something like this. But unfortunately, there's a time limit. There's only 30 days on this one. So I'm looking at the state of the map, and I'm trying to think to myself, like, okay. Like, is it even possible to come back in 10 days from this? I don't know. I don't know, folks. Like, at this point, I would have to flip like 3 properties. And, well, probably more than 3 properties, because he's going to get these properties down here. He could get those properties down there. He's actually doesn't have too much defense down in this area, but he's also capped the other comm towers. Now he's sitting at 130% attack. And he's building a bomber. Right? Obviously, I don't know he's got a bomber. But I know that, you know, he's got a bunch of funds, right? And if you're, like, pushed up this high, or this far, with, like, you know, a bunch of stuff, you probably are going to start building, like, heavy units. But day 20 rolls around. I look at my unit value and I'm like, oh man, 13 units, 87,000 values. Like, no, I can't come back from this. Can't come back from that. So unfortunately, that was the resign for me, and that is the end of my run in the 8 Cup tournament. I made it all the way to round 5, and that's it, folks. That's it. That's all. But you know what? I thought it was a good run. Unfortunately, with this battle, I completely blundered it, and it was super, super bad. Super bad, folks. So the only thing I want you to get from this is just don't make those mistakes that I made. Okay? If you're still in the tournament, or if you're doing Stalingrad matches in general, okay? Don't do what I did. Perfect. All right. So I really, really hope you don't. So that'll be good. Yeah, when it comes to Stalingrad, my opponent here, Von Bolt, yeah, that strategy that he did with kind of rushing up to his comm tower and sending an early recon and tank over to scout this area, that's a super good opening. I would suggest probably trying to do an opening similar to that, and it should do very well for you. I'm thinking it'll do very well. Yeah, shouldn't be too bad. We just move on, right, folks? Either way, there's going to be a lot more exciting stuff in the future. So perhaps next season when they have another Egg Cup, I'm going to join again, and maybe I'll get to round 6 next time. You never know. Anyways, folks, so hope you enjoyed. This has been Semi-Original Guy, aka Mr. Cannon from Advance Wars by Web. Leaving a link in the description below where you can join Advance Wars today and play against people around the world, and a link to the Discord for Advance Wars by Web where you can chat with people around the world about all things Advance Wars. Alrighty, folks, y'all have yourself a fantastic day. Semi-Original Guy out.